Hi guys, welcome down here to France where we're in a slightly different location to normal. We're in the garden where behind you in that direction is an ancient bread oven that's attached to a barn. Now we don't know how old exactly this bread oven is, but it's likely to be somewhere over 200 years old at least. Now we've never really used it before. I did try yesterday. We were going to roast a chicken, but it took over half an hour for it to cook a pizza, so we determined that it probably wasn't safe to go ahead and try and cook a chicken. But what we're going to do, and I think this is a perfect thing to do in an old big stone bread oven where it's difficult to control the temperature. It's not going to get that hot because I think I'd probably have to be burning something like 20 to 30 big logs in one go to make this bread oven hot. I mean, ultimately this bread oven was here for the whole village to come and cook their bread every day, so it's massive. It's probably somewhere near to 2.5 or 3 meters in depth, so you could literally cook a whole village their bread in one go. So what we've got instead today is something that I'm much more comfortable with than a roast chicken in an environment like this, and that's a lovely piece of beef. So we've got what's called a grand sirloin, which is just a fancy way of saying basically a sirloin cut. So it's not just one steak. This is somewhere around 700 grams or 1.5 pounds. So let's just say it's enough for 3 people. There are only 2 of us here though, so we're going to be well fed. So we've got this sirloin. It's from the Hereford breed. It's had 32 days of dry aging, so nothing too funky, just enough to really tenderize it. And we're not going to do too much with it, but what we are going to do is a really simple but effective cooking method, which is, I think, probably the best way to deal with this environment where I don't know how hot it is. It's not that hot. So we're going to reverse sear this piece of meat. So I've got it in this cast iron pan, which is going to help to build up the temperature slowly. So it takes quite a lot of heat to really heat up this sort of pan. I don't want to cook this steak in terms of searing it from the beginning. So reverse searing ultimately means that I'm going to cook it at a sort of low to medium temperature for a decent amount of time. And I'm going to use an electric thermometer to keep testing this every 10 to 15 minutes, make sure it's not overcooking, because really I only want to get it up to sort of 125 Fahrenheit maximum. And then I will sear it afterwards on a much hotter flame, which I'll show you obviously later in the video. So one of the great things about reverse searing is that we're going to have enough time for some aromatic flavors to sort of really penetrate into the meat, which is what we're after. And I've got some garlic cloves here. I'm just going to give them a little smash, and that will just release some of that lovely garlic oil flavor. Then along with that, from the garden here, I've got some sage, which is not something you would generally think of with beef, but actually any aromatic herb is going to build up a delicious flavor over time. So over time, that's a bad herb pun, sorry. We don't have any thyme actually. We've got rosemary though. This is the most aromatic rosemary. It's almost lavender-like, but it's really delicious and fresh, and it's just growing here directly behind me. Of course, then I've got the trusty Maldon sea salt, and I always have to have a big tub. Here we go. Right, I'm not going to salt it too heavily because I can always salt it again a bit more later. This is going to be in there a long time. We don't want to dry it out too much. We don't want to over salt it. So just a decent amount is fine. There we go. That looks good to me. Now underneath it, I'm going to put the garlic, and I'm going to put the herbs. Just like this. They're going to sit underneath it, and they're going to gently smoke away. And then let's get a good amount of salt on the fat here. That's always a delicious part to eat if it's cooked properly and slowly rendered through. Here we go. Just more on the sides. So last thing I'm going to do, which I've forgotten to bring out with me, is a drizzle of olive oil. I think when it comes to searing steak, you probably wouldn't use too good of an oil. It's going to burn off, and normally I would use avocado oil. But seeing as we're slow cooking this, a little bit of nice oil can actually sort of soak in a little bit, especially if it's got nice flavour. And just use whatever utensil or even your hands just to sort of rub it on a little bit. As I said, we want to get this to about 125 Fahrenheit. The heat of the searing at the end to give it that crust is really going to bring it up those last few degrees. Okay. Alright guys, it's been in for 35-40 minutes and it started off a lot more quickly than I thought it was going to. I'm just going to measure the temperature at this point. I'm a little bit concerned that this is going to end up not being reverse searing but actually just roasting, which would still be delicious, but it wasn't actually what we were after in the first place. I'm also trying to figure out how to make this go to Fahrenheit. I did pull it back away from the fire about 15 minutes ago just to slow things down. It's in this heavy pan which has kept the heat nicely. Oh, that looks delicious. We're going to stick this into the middle of the beef and get a temperature reading. I said we were looking for about 125 Fahrenheit. I've got a Celsius thermometer here, so I'm going to do a conversion for you in a second. Okay, it looks like it's about 44 degrees Celsius. I'll put up on the screen what that is. That is not up to the temperature we're looking for yet, so I'm going to put it back in and come back in 10 to 15 minutes. Alright guys, the beef ended up taking just over 50 minutes. It got to 55 Celsius, which is 125 Fahrenheit. We're not quite ready for it. I'm going to foil it up. If you take a look at the beef, it's actually got a decent sear on it already, so I'm going to leave it foiled while it rests, and then we'll just give it a quick sear on the fire pit just to give it that last lovely crust. So yeah, we'll be back in a minute. There's always going to be a setback in these things. Unfortunately, it was too damp underneath the fire pit. We are just at the end of spring, so yeah, this isn't really working. So what we're going to have to do is take the beef back to the oven, get it nearer to the flame, and just finish off that last 10 to 15 Fahrenheit that we would want. It turns out, luckily, that the oven was hot enough to actually sear it as we were going along. So altogether, this has been a real learning experience for me. And also it just shows that these old bread ovens, they were pretty efficient in the first place, and they do get pretty hot. So alright, I'll see you back by the bread oven in a second. Alright guys, it's been about an hour and a half since I first put the beef in the oven. It actually went more quickly and better than I thought it would. So I'm going to start by just cutting off this end piece. I'm not sure exactly what to expect because it's been in there a long time, but it looks like it's going to be incredibly juicy. It came to 60 Celsius, which should be on the rarer end, but I'm going to put the Fahrenheit temperature for you up on the screen. And I'm just going to slice off one bit here on the side. Let's see what we get. Oh yes. Well, that looks delicious. Really juicy. If you can see here, this is really pink. So we've got around a medium by the time it's rested. It's been sat in this hot pan here. So look, all I wanted to do with this test was see if I could cook beef in that oven, so that in future I can come up with some interesting recipes. And perhaps do maybe a little suckling piglet, do some roast lamb, which will be amazing, and come up with other ways of smoking and cooking beef. But let's just give it a little taste and see if it's as good as it looks. The garlic that was on there cooked nice and soft, and I'm hoping the aromatic flavours have gone inside. So I'm going to take some beef right from the middle. Cheers. Oh, it smells. It's delicious. It's more like a roast beef than it is a steak. It was from this larger cut, which they call Grand Sirloin. I've never heard of it. I think it might be just this butcher that I get it from. I don't think it's the most marbled meat, this particular one. It's not dry at all, but there is a certain sort of bite to it. But overall, what I'm really happy about is the flavour has penetrated right into the middle. I get a little bit of the garlic, and definitely get the rosemary. So I think cooking it slowly like that in this oven has been a triumph. I'm really happy with it. So hopefully I'll see you back here in a few months to cook again in this oven. In the meantime, we'll be back in the normal kitchen from next week. So this was just an interesting little video to see if we could work out how to do this, and I'm happy with the outcome. So thanks for watching. See you on the next one, and if you like this sort of video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, give us a thumbs up, it really helps, and have a good day. Cheers.